Hey y'all, welcome to the Inkabyss, where I read, rank, and review books. My name's Priscilla Tess, and this video is on Assistant to the Villain. Y'all, I love this book. I'm actually going to break this review up into two parts because I feel like it deserves an in-depth review. So let's jump into the synopsis of the story. This book was about a villain, a notorious villain in this village who needs an assistant, a personal assistant, to keep his life together and all his nefarious plans on track. And he finds this woman in the woods while she gets lost or is trekking through the woods, and they coincidentally run into each other. And thus they start this partnership. However, being the villain, he obviously is fighting against somebody, which is the king of this kingdom. And he has plans to thwart all the king's plans that he himself has. And this assistant has to walk a fine line because she is a normal, upstanding member of a community back at home, and so she kind of has to live a little bit of a double life. She is the main breadwinner for her little sister and her father, who has the mystic illness, which is not curable, and most of the time the patients end up dying. But she needs special medicine for her father, who cannot provide for his two daughters. She's considerably older than her little sister, so her little sister is still in school, so she has a whole family basically that she has to provide for, and this is the only job that she could get. And the villain actually ends up being a hero by giving her this job that she needed. And so it embarks on their story and their partnership and their battle against the good guy, the king. This book is your typical fantasy rom-com, but with some differences that I really loved and I think are very interesting. Let me go ahead and tell you my overall rating for this book is going to be a 7 out of 10. Just because I loved the story, I loved so much about this book. But there were some things I did not like. The main one being, y'all, this is part of a series. I didn't know. I wanted to throw the book across the room when it just ended. And I kept thinking, like, there's so much left in this story and there's only a few pages left. And I usually try and look at books and research them before I start a series because I'm a binger. I like to sit down and read the entire series back to back to back. I hate waiting. I am not a patient person. I hate waiting for the next book to come out. And now we are waiting. I think the next book comes out in September of 2024. I had no idea this was part of a series. So if you're like me and you like to binge read your series, you're gonna wanna wait a few years before reading this book because it is a part of a series. So surprise, surprise, or maybe I'm the only one who's surprised. I had no idea. But it's a great book and it's going to be a very long wait for the rest of them. Just to give y'all some of the warnings, there is very little spice in this one. There is, I would give it a 4 out of 10 on the spice rating. It is a slow burn. I expect there to be a little bit more spice in the next books, but I'm just making the assumption. There's some mentions, maybe veiled mentions of sex, but not really enough that I would be like, whoa, don't let underage kids read this. But it's a really good book and I can't wait for the second one, and it is definitely a slow burn. And trigger warnings, because I want to go ahead and give y'all those so you know about that, and then everything else that I want to talk about, my favorite quotes, what I liked, what I didn't like about the book, I'm going to do in a subsequent video because there might be some small spoilers, but this video has no spoilers, so you're safe to continue listening. Trigger warnings, there is violence, he's a villain, there is gore, and so those are mild, I'd say. Well, not mild. It's got some considerable gore mentions and some considerable violence, but nothing that I would consider too shocking. If you're a little squeamish with squishy things, then there's a couple parts you might want to be aware of. If you want to know exact pages that I can, bookmark for you so you know what part to skip, I'd be happy to do that. Leave a comment below and I can guide you through those. There are two big trigger warnings that I want people to know about because it did shake me a little bit. And the first one is death of a child. And that one, it doesn't go into a lot of detail. It's a very brief scene that's mentioned in the book, but there is death of a child in this book. Again, if you want to know where that is so you can skip over it, leave me a comment and I'll be happy to let you know what those pages are. And then the second thing is, I'm not really sure, I've never, I'm new to YouTube and doing reviews and things, so I'm gonna say grape, but it rhymes with grape. There's grape and assault mentions in this. There is no scene. It was attempted, and there's not a lot of detail, but it does allude to grape and essay. So if those are sensitive topics for you, you do need to be aware that those are mentioned, and take that into consideration when you are picking a book. Now, I will say this about both of those are huge triggers for me, and usually I will not read a book at all. Like Outlander, everybody talks about Outlander and how good it is, but they also say it's very grapey, and so I won't read it. I just can't, it triggers me too much. Also, like, I don't do, I have 3 kids and I am very much an empath, and so child death or injury or abuse is hard for me to read, and most of the time I will skip that as well. This one, it was one of those I had to put the book down and go find my happy place, but I wouldn't say it was enough of a child death scene that I would discourage moms or anybody else that is triggered by that from reading it, because it is very short. It doesn't go into a lot of detail. It's like he went into the bright light and that was about it. So it did make me sad because I thought about my little boy, but it wasn't enough to keep me from this book. So there you go. Those are your trigger warnings. I went into a little bit more depth with these because I feel like these needed more attention than my normal trigger warnings, because they had a little bit more meat on the bones. So that's it for my brief synopsis of Assistant to the Villain. It's a great book, and I'm really looking forward to our deep discussion on it and our deep dive into this book. If you like this content, stay tuned and give me a like and subscribe so you don't miss that deep dive into Assistant to the Villain. Thanks for watching.